Dormammu, I've come to bargain.
These are the craziest moments when characters went beast mode in superhero movies and TV shows, Part 2. Tony Stark's the king of transformations because of his different Iron Man suits, and this particular scene pretty much encompasses all that he's delivered to MCU fans over a decade. The nanosuit transformation was epic to say the least, and it created a lot more hype than Spotify Rap could ever have hoped to achieve. We already saw this in the trailer for Infinity War, although without the whole CGI that made it such a legendary moment, so it was a great marketing gimmick by the Wizards of Marvel, who clearly seem to have resigned after Avengers Endgame. An Iron Man suit up is always appreciated, but given the context of this scene with Bruce Banner being unable to get his Hulk up, it just added a lot more impact to Tony's actions.
Dude, you're embarrassing me in front of the wizards.
I'm sorry, either I can't or he won't.
Of course, this wasn't the only highlight for fans, as we got to see the nanosuit in action against the highly dangerous Cull Obsidian. Bro smacked that dude down and went on to unleash a brutal blast that sent him flying away as if he was a little toy. Mind you, this beast is supposed to rival the Hulk in terms of sheer base strength, so seeing him get dominated so easily was definitely a highlight in general.
Where'd that come from?
It's nanotech. You like it?
A little something like...
If you happen to be a fellow man of culture such as yours truly, then you'll know how important this scene was to folks like us. Wonder Woman has been a pivotal character for a lot of young men for very obvious reasons, so when Gal Gadot wore the costume for the first time in the No Man's Land scene, she already won us over without having to do anything else. Of course, she does end up doing a lot here as she takes down the enemy soldiers with ease. Whether it's deflecting bullets or bracing against an onslaught of ammunition with her shield, Princess Diana showed us exactly why she's a goddess in her own right. It was definitely the main highlight of the film in terms of optics, so I can't believe the studio thought about cutting the scene just because they thought it was boring. Like, are you even serious right now? It's a pivotal moment in Diana's character development, which adds value to the supporting cast as well. She realizes that she can and should rely on others. She became less hard-headed and more willing to cooperate. She became a better person and uses that realization to good effect. Remember that gag when the Flash found his head in the middle of a certain spot on Wonder Woman's body? Yeah, Joss Whedon may have thought of that as a funny addition, but the man also decided to leave out this scene from the final cut of the Justice League. I don't think we should trust anyone who do such a thing because this is such an amazing display of power. Barry Allen totally goes beast mode here as he saves all those innocent people from getting crushed by the falling debris. Seeing those lightning flashes while Bro was deflecting all the slabs was a brilliant piece of CGI, which does make me wonder why they couldn't replicate the exact same thing in the Solo Flash movie. Man, we really need more scenes like this when it comes to showcasing speedsters. Slow-mo shots surely have their place, but it's scenes like this that truly display the essence of a quickie expert. And yes, I know that Cyborg had to come in to blast that final piece, but Flash had pretty much done everything else at that point. Plus, you'd imagine a guy as fast as him would have been able to make it in time to stop that debris from impact as well. I suppose nobody's immune to continuity errors. This is the movie that's temporarily saved the MCU all on its own, so I hope the studio executives learn a lesson from it and not mess anything else up in the future, although I wouldn't really bet my life on it, you know. Anyway, seeing Deadpool and Wolverine teaming up was a dream come true for us Marvel fans, and after all the bickering they endured throughout the film, it was this singular moment that totally took the cake for me. Regenerative powers can only take you up to a certain point when you're trying to withstand literal destruction of your timeline, so it takes a lot more than one sassy assassin to get the job done. Luckily for our naughty red latex Wade Wilson, he found his buddy Logan coming in at the right time only to stop the machine, but also to show off how ripped he is, despite being old enough to be a grandpa. Yeah. I'm sure he's received a lot of help to maintain that physique due to his status, but you've got to give Hugh Jackman serious props for putting in the effort. Also, if you hear the Wolverine roaring, there's no question, that's a top-tier beast mode moment. Mila Jovovich was really the epitome of badassery for women back in the 2000s. This gal could do literally anything with the way she was kicking butts, whether they were humans or zombies. As Violet, this woman really achieved something special when it came to action choreography. This scene right here has her facing off against two groups of guards, all of whom are armed. She manages to not only defeat all of them without much effort, but she also makes sure to maintain consistency in her colour palette. Seriously, the main part of this entire sequence to me was when her outfit changed from white to red. I mean, that was super cool and definitely badass. The way Violet can turn to beast mode while also staying so calm is definitely an art. She's like the chill guy meme, but while assassinating dozens of opponents. The movie may not have been a masterpiece, but I will admit it's one of my many guilty pleasures, and I don't regret it one bit. Man, Mila could have easily gone on to play characters like Tomb Raider or Black Widow if her agent just worked that little bit harder. Well, I guess we should be thankful for what we do end up getting, right?
I've been at the mercy of men just following orders. Never again.
Magneto was always a popular character, and this is well before the first ever X-Men movie was released too. Sir Ian McKellen ended up giving us a brilliant rendition of the character, but to be honest with you, it was Michael Fassbender who gave us the Giga Chad. His depiction of Magneto can be best described in the form of his actions during the grand finale of X-Men First Class. After getting rid of Shaw with some crucial help from Professor X, Magneto rebels against the armed forces who fire their missiles at all mutants on the island. Stopping the missiles was badass enough, but then when Eric told Charles he was no longer going to be at the mercy of men following orders, we just knew what his next move was going to be. This man took the concept of Uno Reverse and turned it into the most lethal form of execution. That too, way before the meme was an actual thing on the internet. The way he just casually tosses those missiles at his new human enemies was pretty nonchalant for a guy who was just fighting back. I guess he learned a lot of other things at that camp that he was kept in, eh?
Adrenaline.
One of the most memorable characters from the Kick-Ass franchise is Hit Girl, and I think you might agree with me if I say that we need a spin-off show of her solo exploits. I mean, with all the bait and switch nonsense going around in other media, it wouldn't be a stretch to say that most folks wouldn't mind focusing on Hit Girl as the next big thing from Kick-Ass. Her fight against Mother Russia, though, is a literal definition of going off the blocks, as we see her completely unleashing her wild side to turn the tables. Yeah, things weren't looking good for Hit Girl at first, especially with all the toughness being shown by Mother Russia, but she eventually managed to prove why she should be a staple in modern films. Yes, she did need to trick her opponent into injecting her with the very same substance that would lead to her eventual defeat, but hey, it's all fair when you're dealing with the female version of Ivan Drago. I wonder if Hit Girl would have been able to take her down in a boxing match. It would still be better than seeing Jake Paul go after people way past their retirement age.
Come on, Peter Tingle.
It would have really sucked for Peter Parker to get back to his normal life after the events of Endgame, especially with Tony Stark gone forever. Trust me, even I haven't been quite the same since 2019. However, criminals don't exactly wait for you to finish grieving before they launch some of the most brutal attacks mentally and physically. Mysterio was the perfect example of this, as could be seen throughout the movie. However, he does get humbled right at the end when Spider-Man uses his Spidey sense in full effect in order to deal with the illusions that have been dominating him the entire time. It was a badass moment with Spidey being able to dodge everything coming at him, even while he himself was charging at his opponent. The visuals were spot on, and if you think about it, this was actually the last MCU flick before their CGI got so messed up. Yep, I know we got No Way Home in 2021, but I suppose the Sony Spider-Man films are a class apart. Anyway, Mysterio has always been a deceptive foe, and he lived up to that reputation even after his demise, but it's because of this unreal display that Peter Parker totally outshines him here, even when we realise his evil plan right at the end.
Who would do something like that?
Mysterio.
Now, I know that Jake Gyllenhaal isn't really loved by Taylor Swift fans, but I wouldn't really disagree with them if this energy was to be redirected to Quentin Beck instead. When the first trailer for this movie came out, there was one word ringing in everyone's mind, and it was disaster. Like, how on earth could you mess up the animation to someone like Sonic the Hedgehog? Luckily, the creative team was smart enough to act on and resolve the fan backlash as soon as they could, and the final product won hearts worldwide. Of course, we're here to see beast mode scenes, so let me show you the final battle where Sonic unleashes his supersonic mode to attack Dr. Eggman's ship and send him packing into another dimension. Look, there's a lot of chatter in the middle of the actual attack, but trust me when I say, it's well worth the wait. The supersonic mode depiction was perfect, especially with the way we see those blue lights intersecting at lightning speed while thrashing Eggman's ship. It was a pretty obvious display of domination, and even the final strike from Sonic felt pretty personal to me. Imagine being beaten so badly that the hero sends you to a whole other realm of reality. Maybe this is how Jim Carrey found himself in purgatory narrating The Weeknd's Dawn FM album. I know a lot of people didn't like the new MCU phase, yours truly included, but I feel ShangChi could have worked a lot better had there not been so much uncertainty at the time. It did somewhat okay at the box office, but if a few other things went its way, this could have been a billion-dollar flick. Just look at the fight scenes if you don't believe me. The battle between Shang-Chi and Zhu Wenwu towards the end of the movie was just top-class stuff. It's son battling his father, that too by using techniques that he got from his mom. Once he gets the rings, Shang-Chi truly becomes the best of both of his parents, and that's exactly why his beast mode moment here lands higher than some other really impressive entries. A detail I noticed here was that when Wenwu was using the 10 rings, the powers of electricity were embedded into it. This is something that's scattered, chaotic and unpredictable. However, when Shang-Chi uses the rings, there's a smooth line between them. It's not scattered at all. The fight in itself had all the right ingredients in it, but it was the culmination of the story that really worked in favor of this sequence.
You shouldn't have killed my mom and squished my Walkman.
Imagine realizing that you're supposed to be half God, but then you also learn that your dad ended up taking your mom's life just so that he could go back and play in his own planet, which he also somehow managed to create as an alternative version of himself. Yeah, Ego is a messed up mind, and his name kinda reinforces his motivations, but make no mistake, the dude's a celestial, and there's no way for a vast majority of the MCU characters to take him on solo. However, StarLord decided to use his rage to his advantage, and he ended up giving all of us a rather pleasant sight to watch. Like, who the heck ends their wife just because he's scared he might develop feelings for her? I digress, but the point remains that it was this revelation that pushed StarLord over the edge. The visuals were on point yet again, and you could totally feel the rage inside Peter Quill's head as he tried to tear his daddy a new one. Bro did end up succeeding eventually, but not before a massive struggle, which only further proved how much of a brute force Ego was in the first place. Having said that, I still haven't forgiven him for the whole Thanos mess up because of Gamora in Infinity War. Imagine being so fast that you can run on water and cause a lot of intense conversations in certain fields. I'd rather not touch up on such topics, but I'll say that this is the first entry where the person unleashing beast mode doesn't know what he's done. Well, to be fair, Dash is a little kid, but even so, you'd think he'd at least be a bit more aware of his surroundings. Anyway, it's not like it mattered to him at all, because he was able to avoid his attackers for the longest time using his super speed. The animation was super impressive for 2004, and I feel like it had a huge role to play in the public sentiment around it. The funny part is that Dash himself was barely aware of what he'd just accomplished. The way it was presented was also pretty cool. We see Dash using his powers freely for the first time, so he stumbles and trips, he runs into bugs, he swings himself on a vine and launches himself off a cliff amongst many other things. It's stuff like this that makes the audience members remember the character even more so.
Dormammu, I've come to bargain.
You've come to die. Your world is now my world. Like all worlds.
It's quite rare to see a hero defeating a villain without even having to lift a finger, whereas in other cases, he's just a chill guy. The art of subtlety is something that can be expressed in various ways, and this particular encounter with Dormammu is one of them. We see Strange trying to bargain with a planetary being in the most hilarious way possible, and he eventually comes out on top by sheer will. Yes, he's ended multiple times, which should definitely have caused some kind of long-term trauma, but the point remains that he could always come back because of the spell he cast with the Time Stone. Bro simply wore out his opponent with the same line over and over again.
Dormammu! Dormammu! Dormammu!
Making him so restless that he decided to go away once and for all. How many times can you say that about any superhero? Even in the scenarios where Dormammu destroyed Doctor Strange, we did see him putting up a fight, so it's not like he was just going to go there and die. He did his best to frustrate someone he knew he wasn't at the same level to defeat, which makes the achievement all the more impressive. Sure, it's nothing flamboyant, but it's definitely a depiction of grit and determination, both of which seem to be in abundance for the deserving Sorcerer Supreme.
What do you want?
Take your zealots from the Earth. End your assault on my world. Never come back.
Scarlett Johansson may be known worldwide for her looks, but she's done a lot as an actress to be restricted to such a narrow mindset. With films like Lost in Translation and Under the Skin, she's definitely proven her acting chops, so we don't have to just remember her for that car scene with Happy in Iron Man 2. Anyway, in Lucy, she goes to a whole other level of flexing when she literally becomes existence in itself just by using 100% of her brain. Yeah, I know that science has debated this theory endless times, but it is a movie, so I'm gonna allow it, okay? At this very point, it totally felt as if Lucy was the supreme being of the universe, and the sequence made sure to double down on that claim. The ending of the film definitely hit a lot different than the rest of the runtime because it goes from a thriller to a freaking philosophical trip with the titular character travelling across time to the very first ancestors of the human race. It's a trip for the mind, and it definitely gave serious 2001 A Space Odyssey vibes. So I'd also like to give credit to the director Luc Besson for what he managed to pull off here.
Where is she?
In the massive mess that was Phase 4 of the MCU, there were a few positives in it. There were the Spider-Man films, and there was the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. This was a fitting finale to the underdogs of a franchise that was raking in billions of dollars as if it were a joke. Now, One particular scene that I feel I should have mentioned in my earlier videos, but didn't, was the part where Yondu's Yaka arrow finally finds a new successor in Kraglin. It was a pretty high stakes moment as well, with everything in shambles and the arrow literally being Kraglin's last line of defense. Luckily, all he needed was Yondu's ghost to show up and smile for him, and he followed that up with an extremely impressive display. I swear, the Yaka arrow needs to be given the same amount of respect as a Mjolnir or Captain America's shield, because it's a lifesaver. And yes, I also realised Yondu's ghost here could have very well been a homage to Star Wars, you know, back when it used to be good.
She's a good dog.
It's top 10 time, so we're going to kick things off with Hollywood's favourite madman, Nicolas Cage in Kick-Ass. Damon McCready as Big Daddy is actually the closest you get to Nick Cage being a superhero in real life. If anyone ever asks you who Big Daddy's supposed to be, just tell them it's Batman, but he kills people with passion. The warehouse fight scene was a perfect combination of action choreography and synchronized camera movements to give us a brilliant display of dominance from a character who really should be on our screens more often. Big Daddy doesn't have to say a single word because he knows he's the boss and nobody even remotely comes close to challenging him. The part where he finishes off one of the goons with a shotgun was badassery at its finest, and the aura he exhibits is nothing short of spectacular. I'm really glad Nicolas Cage is doing good movies again too. I mean, I love the weird indie stuff he was always acting in, but with films like Long Legs also having his presence, I feel he's finally getting his due as an actual actor, and not some rampaging psycho like the one he played in 1993's Deadpool.
You'll never stop at one. I'll take you all on!
The Transformers franchise may have been slowly degrading itself with pointless movies and shoddy writing, but the Michael Bay films will always hold a special place in my heart. Optimus Prime used to really own the screen back then, and this particular battle from Revenge of the Fallen is a key highlight of the character's live-action rendition. Sure, Megatron pierces him from behind towards the end, but don't forget that Optimus was taking on 3 Decepticons at the time and dominating them. It was literally just because of a tiny distraction that Megatron got the drop on him, and calling your opponent weak when you use such a cowardly move doesn't really reflect well on the villain. Like, you were crying for your minions to help you out a couple of minutes ago. Did you forget that part, eh?
How I could snap your limbs off. Doctor, examine this alien specimen.
Anyway, Optimus even managed to rip apart one of his opponents before being taken down, so that makes this beast mode moment all the more impressive. Even the way Optimus says he'll take all of them on was just so surreal that it gave me goosebumps. No wonder even his initial spell, OP.
Sam, where are you? You're so weak.
Miles, it's for your own good.
Who decides that? I'm not a kid, Gwen.
That's exactly what you are. You're just a kid who has no idea what he's doing!
Miles Morales is definitely a top-tier character now, and rightfully so. After the success of his first film, everyone was waiting to see him again in Across the Spider-Verse, and they weren't disappointed at all. Seeing Miles evade so many Spider-Men in the multiverse with nothing more than sheer skill and big brain energy was fascinating to watch. Bro managed to piss off Spider-Man 2099 so much that he made him come personally to try and capture our hero. Miguel O'Hara is no small fry at all, but the way Miles eventually stands up to him and even delivers that shock was exceptional stuff. I really felt bad for this dude because he was trying so hard to reach the levels of his spider peers, but then got rejected in the worst possible way. Miguel really laid it on him as well when he had the upper hand, but hey, we all love an underdog, don't we? This is exactly why I'm going to be amongst the first to watch the sequel in cinemas when it comes out.
Everyone keeps telling me how my story is supposed to go. Nah, I'm gonna do my own thing.
It's been a while since I've mentioned this film, so here it is again with one of the most iconic scenes ever. I know it may seem a bit odd for me to categorize this as a beast mode moment, but think about it. How many superheroes have you seen with a defensive capability like this one? The villains fire literal bullets into what most would consider to be a weak spot, but even then, it does nothing to Clark Kent. Seeing a bullet bounce off Superman's eyeball must be the height of discouragement when you're a villain, and to be able to pull off something like this would surely be the peak of other superheroes' powers. So yeah, even though Superman barely even reacts here, it actually proves why it's such a Chad moment. Bro just stood there and amazed all of us, kinda like how Michael Jackson had people fainting during his concerts without even doing anything. It's very important to have a good father figure in your life because he'll shape up most of your personality, especially if you're a boy. Unfortunately for Quicksilver, he had a dad who never even met him, and his name appears to be Magneto. Yeah, talk about luck, right? Having said that, he still wanted to make sure he'd impress his father whenever he got the chance, and the kitchen scene from Days of Future Past is probably the pinnacle of that feat. With X-Men like Professor X, Magneto and freaking Wolverine by your side, you'd normally just be a fanboy, but here, Quicksilver manages to not only outdo them in terms of stealing the scene, but also hold all of them speechless. It's the ultimate display of speed for a mutant, and he definitely won all of us over after this. It's like he made all of us forget that there was an MCU version of this character too. If you haven't been around to see the Infinity Saga in theatres, then you really have no idea what that vibe was like. There's been no other film franchise during or after this phase which has been able to keep the world hooked. So when everyone saw Thanos pounding the freaking Hulk like a nobody, there was radio silence everywhere. I don't even think I've ever seen that kind of reaction for any movie I've watched on the big screen, which in itself proves how much of a beast the Mad Titan was. The Hulk isn't some random fighter after all, the dude literally took out a freaking Leviathan with one punch, and yet even after landing multiple hits at Thanos, he was barely able to leave a scratch. And then he got violated in the worst way possible. Bro got so humbled after being taken to the cleaners that he refused to come out for the rest of the film.
This is me being reasonable.
This movie was poised to make well over $1 billion at the global box office, but fell short because of the classic bait-and-switch model that's ruined modern movies. Having said that, the way Wanda manages to defeat an entire Kamar-Taj worth of sorcerers was legendary stuff. The Scarlet Witch did gain an unfair power boost, so it shouldn't have come as such a big shock, but the way she did was what blew everyone away. It wasn't just a raw display of power, she knew the weak link and targeted him with great precision to eventually overpower those who stood in her way.
She's trying to get in their heads.
Sorcerers! Fortify your mind!
Gotta say, out of everyone here, I felt the worst for Wong. Bro put his heart and soul into telling his men to fortify their minds, and it still didn't work. I did mention I'd be covering movies and TV shows, so you might have got a little confused as to where the TV shows were. Well, here's one of them, and it's a scene that really couldn't be placed any lower than number 3. The Netflix version of Daredevil was peak Marvel without the MCU, and this hallway fight scene is as good as it gets when we consider realism. It isn't a simple equation, and the hero is definitely struggling to make it through, which makes his hard-fought success all the more impressive. The protagonist is presented as a more believable human being, which makes this so much more relatable to the audience. But yeah, bro unleashed all his skills at once and gave everyone a beating for the ages. Imagine you're just chilling in a room with your buddies and some random costume guy kicks in the door and starts swinging. I definitely wouldn't want to be in that hallway. Here's another TV show, and it's got the best scene out of all the Star Wars media to have come out since 2015. Luke Skywalker coming in to save Mando and Grogu was like a dream come true for all of us, and seeing him use the Force with such precision was a treat to our eyes. This was definitely lifted off the Darth Vader scene from Rogue One, but I'm not even going to complain about that because of how awesome this moment is. Even the Mandalorian himself didn't know how to react to such greatness. That's alright because the fans sure reveled in it. It was only for a short time, but everyone was thankful to Mr. Skywalker for saving Star Wars.
I know what kind of god I need to be. For you. For all of us.
It's 3 for 3 at the top of this list for TV shows, and as far as the number one spot's concerned, it has to be the finale of Loki. It's such an emotional moment, but we have to take into consideration that what Loki achieves here is a lot more than the peak of He Who Remains. Saving the multiverse and all the timelines is something that would make you the eternal god who would command zero resistance. However, this was done in solitude, and the god of mischief will remain that way forever. It's a highly poignant moment that you don't even consider how badass his feat is. Either way, I'm glad the creators chose to give Loki such a brilliant and fitting farewell. I hope you liked this video. Please subscribe to the TV Regent, and here's another video that I know you're going to enjoy.